All right. I'm also here to bring you good news from the Word of Mouth Marketing Association. As Bill kicked off, we are a nonprofit trade association based out of Chicago. We have about 400 members, both brands and marketing services groups. And our job is basically to share best practices on how to get customers talking in a genuine manner that's creative, but also is legally right. Because we all know there are ways you can manipulate certain stuff. So WOMA is all about promoting word of mouth in the most genuine manner possible. And these days, what's fun is social media is sexy. Social media has made word of mouth fun again. I know we've all probably read The Tipping Point. Malcolm Gladwell in the book clearly helped to sort of codify how something small can grow to be big through people talking, through word spreading. Nowadays, word is being able to spread so much faster because of social media. And I talk to marketers, and marketers tell me that to get a project green-lighted, as long as you have somewhere in this project plan social media, it becomes easier for it to be green-lighted. Because again, social media is sexy. So many businesses, so many companies want to hop on the bandwagon. And it's for good reason. Because nowadays, the stat that I just saw says that 17% of our time online is spent navigating through social media sites. 17% of our time. That's significant. We also know that Fortune 100 companies are jumping on the social media bandwagon. We have at least half of them are on Twitter. And we also have 32% are maintaining a blog, and about 29% have a Facebook page. Fortune 100 companies are claiming they're real estate, and they want to, of course, get and be a part of the social media. Now, we also kind of know that 69% of these businesses on Twitter, just to kind of put it into perspective, they may tweet about 4 times a week. So that's not a lot of activity. So basically what I'm here saying is that lots of businesses are there, but they're not doing a lot while being there. And part of what we're going to be talking about today is hopefully some things to get more businesses feeling comfortable about increasing their participation in social media channels. There was a report that came out back in the summertime, and the title is kind of hard to read. It was a report called Engagement, ranking the top 100 global brands. In this report, they basically summarized it by saying that companies, and please pardon me, I have to look at the screen here a little bit, companies that are both deeply and widely engaged in social media surpass their peers in terms of both revenue and profit performance by a significant difference. Now, their data says that the more involved, the deeper a business is in using social media, the stronger connections they're making to customers, and those stronger connections are actually resulting in higher sales and a more profitable business. Now, we can debate, and we won't go into it, how they measured it, but I do think that it is important to point out that a lot of businesses are following this, and they believe there's a lot of truth here. Let's take Howard Schultz, CEO, chairman of Starbucks, and I found this fascinating. On his Q3 call with Wall Street folks, there was one. On July 21, he said this because he was proud to be in this report, and he says that we were just named the #1 brand in new social media engagement report, which he was talking about what I just showed you. And here was the CEO proudly talking about how his company is being recognized as a social media leader. And he says the key in all of this and what they're trying to do is that they're trying to connect directly with loyal customers who he knows will be driving future growth. So clearly Howard Schultz sees social media as a way to continue the customer relationship that may begin inside the 4 walls of a Starbucks. Now, to let us know kind of some of the stats behind this, they've got over 4.5 million fans on Facebook. That's kind of insane. In fact, they're the most popular brand, more popular than Coca-Cola on Facebook. It's kind of phenomenal. They had this question to kind of dig in a little bit on this ROI, which there's a whole panel talking about this today. And they wanted to know, how are you taking this online chatter and translating it to an ROI measurement? And their director of digital strategy basically says that they're looking at a couple things that go beyond just measurement. They're looking at really the so-called emotional connections that are made. What's the tonality of the conversations? They're measuring that. They're measuring just the plain old human connections that happen. And finally, trying to see if it adds to the bottom line. And they've done this through doing specific coupons online, and especially when they launched their new healthier pastry options, they had a coupon on Facebook that they wanted to pass around on a certain day. Come on in and try your new pastries, which was only distributed online. So they get some ideas to the engagement piece there. And they said something here that I think we all should pay attention to. Anything involving with social media marketing strategy it's not a marketing initiative, it's not a PR initiative, it is cultivating and creating great customer value and great customer relationships. With us being so connected, social media is the perfect tool that's out there from a technology standpoint to connect people with people, brands to people. Starbucks realizes this, and as we also saw, most of the Fortune 100 companies are realizing this. So really, we're here today to talk about word-of-mouth marketing, which is the overall piece to this conversation, to becoming talkable. Word of mouth has two components to it. There was an online component, social media, and there was an offline component, person-to-person, voice-to-voice. And we're going to talk about that today. But really, word of mouth is what we're going to be talking about, and we kind of need to get a little background as to why is word of mouth on the mouths of so many marketers today. And it basically goes down to people don't trust the advertising they see. This statistic kind of quantifies something that we've always sort of known. 76% of Americans believe that companies are not truthful in their advertising. That hurts, especially hurts for us who's usually involved in creating those marketing messages. Ouch. Can we blame them? Can we blame consumers? Roast beef sandwich on the promotional poster, dog, that looks good. What'd you get? No, that doesn't look good. Go to the Whopper too. What happened? I wanted that, but I got this. No. I mean, okay, now that's trivial. But a cholesterol-reducing drug, Lipitor, that's serious stuff. Yet, can we trust the commercials that we see for Lipitor? They signed up a spokesman, Dr. Robert Jarvik. Respected doctor, he invented the artificial heart. Respected, renowned man who is a spokesperson for a cholesterol-reducing drug. Now, they presented him as a practicing doctor, lab coat and all, and so forth and so on, when he's a doctor, yes, but he's more of a researcher. So that was a little kind of, you're thinking, okay, I will give him that. We saw the ads of Dr. Jarvik doing what he likes to do in his free time. He's an outdoorsman. He loves to go sculling on a placid lake. Really? Well, it came out that that wasn't him. That was a body double. And it even came out, some of his colleagues kind of went, well, I saw those ads and kind of scratched my head and went, well, I know my friend Rob, and I didn't really know he was into that stuff. And so we see some things that just make us go, huh? Lo and behold, due to some of this stuff, he is no longer the spokesperson for Lipitor. And again, it just goes into the point that we have a hard time trusting a lot of the messages from companies. On the flip side, 78% of global consumers, 78% of us trust the recommendations from people like ourselves. We trust a recommendation from a friend more than we trust a marketing message coming from a company. Again, we've known this. This, again, just helps to quantify it. And this also helps to showcase really why social media and word of mouth is gaining a lot of popularity, is because it's a much more credible way to connect a business to a consumer and consumers to consumers. And we know we need to stack them up as for the most impactful marketing channels out there. Word of mouth is tops. Again, we've kind of known this, but this just kind of quantifies that. We also know that statistics vary here, but I saw this, and 5,000 marketing messages we were exposed to a day, which has, of course, gone up as the time's gone on since there's many more media channels out there. So we're getting exposed to a lot of messages, yet we tend to always have these Meg Ryan moments where we'll look across the table what our friend's having, and we'll basically say, yeah, I'll have what she's having. Despite the fact that we might be in a busy corner looking up, seeing billboards all around us, despite the fact that we are seeing some of those 5,000 marketing messages, the most important marketing message is the message that you see from a friend who says, this soda is delicious. That's why I ordered it. Oh, I'll have what she's having. And to also base us in on the amount of conversations that are happening, which this stat I find fascinating. Keller Fay has been tracking conversations from people about products and services. They've been doing this now for a couple of years, and one of the telltale stats is this. And the typical person is mentioning products and services 125 times per week in just everyday conversations. So the conversation is happening about products and services. And it makes sense due to the fact that we're so connected now, via phone, via smart devices, via computers and whatnot. There's so many more opportunities for these conversations to take place. So when you really look at it, 125 conversations per week about products and services on a variety of means, you can kind of see that happening. For marketers, this stat I think is very important. When consumers are talking about products and services, of those 125 times, 90 times, according to Keller Fay, 90 times people are mentioning specific brands, products, companies. 90 times they're specifically mentioning a brand name in that conversation. That's where we all want products to be. That's where we all want to be a part of this talkable conversation. That's where we want to create conversations, because we know it's happening. We also know this, and I have to put this thing in here. I know this is a social media symposium, but we just have to be clear about this. Most word-of-mouth conversations happen person to person, voice to voice. 10%, according to Keller Fay, happens through technology or online. They have actually tracked this now for a couple of years, and that 10%, to an extent, has held pretty steady. When you dig in a little deeper, 75% of conversations, face-to-face, 15 voice-to-voice, that's by phone. The rest happen through texting, through email, or through social media. Now, keep in mind, this number, of course, is going to increase. It will continue to increase because, in a way, it's become easier to have those conversations through social media. But I just wanted to point out that we are talking about still a growing field, and that's what makes it so tough to be labeled a social media guru, is because this is still so new. This 10% is going to grow, no doubt. So let's even back up a little further. Word of mouth, what is it? How do we define it? Word of mouth, from a simple definition standpoint, is just me passing along some information to you. It's a person sharing something with someone else. Simple as that. Word of mouth marketing is a little bit different. It is an act or acts of giving consumer reasons to talk about products or services. Again, word of mouth marketing is about giving consumers a reason or reasons to talk about products, services, brands. This is where we can have fun, is giving these consumers reasons. But we also know for word of mouth to happen, people must listen to what people are saying. Credibility comes into play here big time. Because if you don't believe the person you are listening to has credibility, you're going to tune them out. If you don't believe the person has credibility that you are reading online via a blog or a tweet, you're going to tune them out. So credibility is important for word-of-mouth conversations to really take shape. So let's kind of go into how. How can we make word of mouth happen? Well, Keller Fay has put out there this stat, which again, I want to share with you because I think it's fascinating. Because I'm not here to say traditional marketing, radio, TV types of commercials are dead. No, they're not. Because clearly we see 22% of all word-of-mouth conversations are sparked by advertising. 78% sparked by something else. I find that something else fun territory to play in. And when we go into this territory, this 78%, there are 3 pathways to get customers talking without using traditional commercials. One is a great customer experience or great customer service. We know when we experience a great customer, when we experience a place that makes us go, wow, that was fun to shop there, we most likely talk about it. We also know that when you're dealing with complicated products, laptops, HD TVs, anything complicated, heck, Whole Foods is complicated. When you want to buy a bag of chips, you don't recognize the brand names. Generally, you need someone to point you in the direction or to explain to you why this brand is actually better, because these are names you probably haven't heard of. So explaining how a product or service works. And then third is this remarkable stuff. Remarkable things get remarked about. That really is at the core of word-of-mouth conversations, offline, online. Remarkable things get remarked about. If you're not getting talked about. I talk to businesses in a simplistic way of saying there are 2 ways to do this. You can bake word of mouth or you can make word of mouth. Baking word of mouth is when it's baked inside how a company does business, not just one day, but every day. This is not really a marketing program. This is just their normal day-to-day way that they do business. I think a brand that fits this very well, Southwest. Their whole company culture is basically set, and they've baked so much remarkability in the things that they do that nowadays they're actually using traditional television types of ads to promote what they've always done. For instance, no bag fees. No hidden fees on Southwest. That's not a marketing program. That's a way that they do business every day. They've baked it inside. Now, making it is a little bit different. It's when you kind of glue on a component to the overall marketing mix. And Southwest does this too. When they launched their JFK service, they created a pop-up lounge in Bryant Park, New York City, called The Porch. And it was there to drive conversations, to get people to talk about, oh, Southwest is coming to JFK. And to do it in a slightly remarkable way. So you can bake it, you can make it, just don't want to fake it. Faking it's bad, folks. Faking it is basically shilling. Faking it is when you pay someone to talk about a product or service without disclosing that they are working for the company, without disclosing that there is a material connection to a company. Word of mouth that is faked will generally almost always be exposed and certainly deplored. There's no doubt about that. No doubt. So for my time left here, I want to kind of set up some WOM thoughts, word of mouth thoughts that I think are going to play back throughout today. The beginning bit that I want to share with you is this thought that what gets measured gets manufactured. Because we live in this world today of what people deem a success. People find ways to achieve that success to take shortcuts to make that happen. Because again, what gets measured today gets manufactured. Online reviews are powerful. They are second to personal voice-to-voice recommendations. Online reviews of products and services have sway today. And that's why the FTC is listening. That's why they have updated the guidelines on endorsements and testimonials. There's a whole panel today talking about this, which goes into what gets measured gets manufactured, because they have a concern that there are companies out there there are people out there that are talking about products and services that may have been compensated in some way to write favorably about this product or service, and yet they don't disclose the fact that there is some connection to the business. And they've even kind of spelled it down to basically talking about the post of a blogger who receives payment or an in-kind gift to review a product is considered an endorsement. And when that goes online, they see that as someone who has been compensated materially to talk about a product, and they believe that people are going to probably be influenced to say more good things than bad things. So the FTC, as we will no doubt delve into deeper today, wants people online to disclose any material relationship, any material connection to a brand or to a company. And this has a major impact as far as two types of marketing that have become very popular, especially online, and that is targeting influencers. Those people that have a platform online where they can reach tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people through their blog, their Twitter feed, or depending upon where else they are in the social media space. So they know that people have sway, and so let's take this case. Let's say Microsoft sends out loaded laptops with the new Windows 7 on them, just launched. Actually, this is a program that they did a few years ago, launching Vista, where they actually sent loaded laptops with Vista to influential bloggers to say, hey, try it out. Now, some of the bloggers said that, yeah, I got a free laptop. And here's what I think about it. Some people said, hey, let me tell you about Vista and this laptop. It's great, blah, 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 and they didn't disclose it. Now, the bottom line from the FTC is that if you receive a freebie from a company or some other type of compensation, it could be, hey, come to our headquarters and we'll show you behind the scenes some of our department that churns out all this great stuff. That's special privileges that if you write about it online, the FTC wants you to acknowledge it, wants you to disclose it. On a tactical level, should look not like this. This would be me on my blog. If I was to say, this laptop rocks, the processing power rocks, the terabyte of hard drive space rocks, blah, blah, blah. But I don't mention that I got this laptop to review. That's not disclosing it, and thus some of the credibility could be hurt, and the FTC thinks that I should disclose it. And so I should, on my blog, disclose it, and I would probably do it like this. Lucky me. I received a free laptop loaded with Windows 7. It's test drive time, baby. And then I'll go in and give my opinion on it. And of course that right there is disclosure that I think would suit the FTC on me acknowledging that there is a material relationship between the product that I have that I'm talking about. And again, we'll dig into that deeper today. The second WOM thought I want to share with you is this idea. And this works, and this is powerful because online, if you hide the truth, someone will find the truth. Again, if you hide the truth, someone will find the truth. Companies have gotten caught. You got Belkin here that got caught for an employee or employees, still not yet sure, doing fake reviews or gaming it so that people will write positive things about Belkin products online. And it got back to the company, and the company had to have their CEO apologize. You can't see this, but basically acknowledging that, yes, they have found there is a problem, and they were doing the things to solve it. But the point here is that people found out about this online, and they exposed it. Again, word of mouth that is not done right and genuine is going to be found out and is going to be exposed and deplored. There's another thought that I want to share, and that if your business lacks confidence, you shouldn't be doing social media. If your business lacks confidence, don't do this stuff. And I mentioned the book, The Tipping Point today. In The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell breaks down the broken windows theory. And this is a theory which he took something kind of complicated and boiled it down to ways we can go, hey, I get this. I know what this means now. And he was talking about how in New York City, crime rates were lower in neighborhoods where they were quick to repair broken windows, quick to repair things that have been tattered, worn down. He noted that higher crime rates occur in cities where the windows that are broken or left unrepaired. Crime rates are higher because people will conclude no one cares. And if people conclude that no one cares about this neighborhood, why should I care? Why don't I just add on to the anarchy? Because you know what? No one seems to care. They ain't fixing this. But the study pointed out that those cities that do care and fix their broken windows, crime rates are actually lower. This goes to businesses. Every business has a broken window. That's my dentist office, folks. And you know exactly what happens at the dentist office. This works great. I'm right here. I'm looking up. By the way, these tiles are spotless. It's great. So I'm looking up. I'm going like, damn. Can I trust this guy to be working on my teeth? Will my teeth be clean if he doesn't even keep the tiles clean? I mean, you think about that. And this is a simple way to determine if a business has a broken window. If you find yourself walking around and going, a customer will never notice that. That's a telltale sign, broken window. If you're online testing out a site and there is a link that's off, there's a misspelled word there, and you go, oh, a customer will never notice that. Let's just push this through. Wrong. Chances are they will notice that, and if it's something big enough and important enough to them, they'll probably talk about it. So that's why I say that if you're a business, you should fix your broken windows. There's a book out there too called Broken Business, Broken Windows. Talks about this. It's fascinating. So the idea here is just the point of spend your time and money to gain confidence about your business before doing social media. Because you cannot control those conversations. You can only spark those conversations. And if you can only spark those conversations, you want to set yourself up on the good foot to make sure more people say good things about you than bad things about you. There's another thought I would like to pass on. Be where your customers are. A lot of companies want to know, should we be online? Should we do social media? And I tell them, well, go online and find out if your current customers are actually there right now. And if they are there, well, I think you should find a way to be there as well. And I talked about it here. 90 times out of these 125 conversations, specific brands are mentioned. Because if a brand has any sort of charisma, someone somewhere is going to be talking about it. You can be guaranteed. Now, if you have a boring brand, then you don't have much to worry about because people might not be talking about it. But I doubt we deal with boring brands. Go to Twitter, search, I don't care what brand it is, Whole Foods, a lot of chatter, Chipotle, a lot of chatter. Go to Fiskars, they make scissors. Can you get more boring than a pair of scissors? No. People are talking about it. Social media help small companies look bigger and big companies get smaller. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's conversation and all this delving into social media is this powerful idea that if you are a small business, you can look bigger online. If you are a bigger business, you can get smaller online. Big businesses, small mom and pop shops are all using the same platforms. Same Facebook page tools can be used by a mom and pop shop and by McDonald's. It's the same playing field that's happening today. And then on top of that, smaller businesses, if they have a great presence online, they can look bigger in customers' eyes. And when they look bigger, they're going to look more professional. When they look more professional or more engaging, people are going to trust them more. Big companies can get smaller online because they can actually have direct conversations with individuals. And a direct conversation online is something that can spread, and it's something there that a lot of folks are finding a better way to engage with big brands as opposed to dialing up 1-800 and being put on hold. You typically don't have to hold when you're online conversing with a big brand. The prototypical case study for this of a small company looking big is Blend Tech. You guys have probably all heard of it. I just have to put it here because it's a great example. Here's a company that makes blenders. And they ended up, of course, doing videos of them blending weird, wacky stuff. Lo and behold, this company here, these videos, of course, they're entertaining stuff, and that gets talked about. But it also shows the power of their blenders. They can blend a rake. They can blend a smartphone. It's pretty killer. And this guy has talked about how their sales have dramatically increased because classic case of a small company utilizing the same tools any big company can use. Hamilton Beach could have used it to showcase how amazing this blender is, small company looking big. Now, big company getting smaller. Comcast. Again, another classic case here. Comcast is a cable company. We all know we hate dealing with cable companies. We all have our technical challenges. We all have our issues with calling the cable company because they don't always do what they say they're going to do, or you're on hold for 2 hours, whatever. Comcast realizes this, and they have been the prototypical company. So many more companies have jumped on realizing that social media is a great channel for customer service. And as a way for customer service, it's a great opportunity for a small company for a big company to get small because they can have direct conversations with customers. If you take a look at Comcast Cares, 90% or so of all his tweets is at somebody, meaning is he's responding directly to someone who asked him a question. That's powerful for a big company to do. And then on top of that, it's tough to see, but he says, "Hi, I'm Frank. This is what I do at Comcast. Have feedback. Contact us through all of these ways. Here are people who are on Twitter from Comcast too. You can ask them and they will be out there to help you." I've seen these guys. Actually, this has become their entire life. They will be at conferences with a computer hooked up so that they can manage their Twitter stream because they care so much to respond back to customers. It is a fabulous way, again, for a big company to act small again. Something else. The more companies on here want to participate on the line. And to do that, it's this whole idea of being a guest that people want to have in your house. Because you can try to participate in conversations and you might come off as only promoting your products, promoting your services. Those are guests that you really don't want in your house because you want to go, can't we talk about real things? As opposed to, do I always have to hear a pitch for, hey, guess what? Coming up next week is the launch of so-and-so product. Hey, we have got pastries for half off from 4 to 7 p.m., so come on by. Hey, did I mention we open up at 5 a.m. Monday through Friday? Come on in, say hi. That's bogus. You don't want to hear that all the time. So there's a recipe. The recipe is simple. 1 part listening, 1 part learning, 1 part responding. Mix well, serve chilled. And if more particular brands, as we're talking about today, the brands that are out there now, so many of them are in this listening mode, which is great, because there you get to dip your toe kind of in the water. We can listen, because again, if your brand has any sort of charisma, any sort of personality, someone somewhere's talking about it. Now, to get to the next level of actually jumping in the pool, you have to learn from this. So the listening piece. There are ways to do this. Radian 6 has a product which is basically a dashboard, which takes around, and if you sign up and you pay them some dollars, you can sign up, and they will show you the conversations that are happening, where they're happening, the volume, and sometimes the tenor of those conversations. There are more services. Scout Labs does the same thing. They do a fine job. Again, they send you a dashboard, so they've gone out and crawl places, and they put it up in a somewhat easy-to-use type of format. Probably the easiest thing, sign up on Google Alerts. I talk to businesses, and they talk about how many of them, some of the largest ones, just do it by themselves. And that they just sign up to Google Alerts, and they get stuff pushed to them on who's saying what, where, as opposed to having to pay dollars for a service. And it'll come back to you. You can also use TweetDeck to manage the conversations that are happening on Twitter. And again, I know big brands who are not paying big dollars to have these tools to give them a dashboard. Instead, they go in individually, use TweetDeck or something like that to better hear the conversation, to give them opportunity to listen to what's happening. And once they've been able to listen, then they go on this diving in a little bit to learn a little bit more about what it is people are saying. And again, this goes back to this line, you might not want to hear what people say about your product, service, brand if you're not confident about it. So again, can't stress enough, more businesses should spend their time and money to gain confidence about the things they do, because that's the only way that they're going to feel comfortable to listen, to learn, and to respond in social media. Responding is the third piece to the recipe. Whole Foods does this very, very well. They have practically 1.5 million followers on Twitter. They do occasionally give out promotional types of messages, but 9 out of 10 of their tweets is in response to someone that has a question for Whole Foods. And so they know that they were there to really inform people online about the company, as opposed to only talking about themselves and the things that they are sending out, selling, and so forth. Instead, they are responding to questions that are out there. And I think, to me, that's one of the smartest ways to use Twitter, is to respond to conversations that are out there, as well as to learn from those conversations, because there are going to be some things people say that are going to hurt you, because you know what? Probably some of the tenor of that conversation is true. No matter how negative someone posts about something, at the heart of it, there's a nugget of truth that should be looked at. Something else that is dear to my heart is this line. Because so many companies want buzz. They just want to be talked about. But buzz doesn't create evangelists. Evangelists create buzz. Just because people are talking about you doesn't mean that they are sharing their appreciation for the things you do. I would much rather have a customer sharing their appreciation for the things a brand does or a brand is doing, rather than just saying, hey, did you see that funny television ad, or check out this viral video, in a way. It's great to get their attention. I would rather get their buying intention. The prototype for this would be Skittles. Earlier this year, all the social media folks know what happened here. Basically, Skittles changed their website from Skittles.com, which was a nice little candy site and get all the different types of stuff, to basically showcasing what conversations were happening online about Skittles. So they set up their homepage to basically broadcast the conversations happening on Twitter about Skittles. Kind of an interesting idea. It got a lot of attention within the social media niche that's out there. Then they changed it to a Facebook page. Again, got more conversation. And then they changed it to Wikipedia. And so again, they're going through all of these social media sites, and they're getting buzz. But the funny thing about this, they were just talking about the things the company did as opposed to what the company does. No one or very few people were actually out there evangelizing their love and appreciation for Skittles. Oh, I love Skittles because Skittles is a great candy and blah, 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 blah. The only chatter that was out there was, dude, look what Skittles is doing. Some people were saying, hey, Skittles gets it. They know social media. They've joined our party. More brands should do what Skittles is doing. Well, it depends, because again, if I'm a company, I want people to evangelize the things that my company does, rather than some of the stuff that it did. Something else to kind of, again, these are just some top-line things to frame up a lot of the conversations that will be explored today in the panels, is this idea that if you're going to do stuff online, just find ways to measure what matters to your company. If it's dollars, find a way to measure that. If it's really emotion, find a way to measure that. But measure what matters to your company. There was a company that did a very unique program. What they did was they sent out chocolate-covered grasshoppers. I'm just playing. This is kind of an oddball thing. So they sent out 5,000 chocolate-covered grasshoppers to online influentials. And they wrote a case study about this. And they feel as though their program achieved their objectives. And let me give you a little background. Here was a company that was got the email, and they were rebranding themselves to a new name, to Grasshopper. And they wanted to find some way to, of course, get in the conversation, to let folks know that, hey, got the email, which is basically a telephone voicemail type of service for small businesses. We would like folks to know about us and about our new name. So again, they targeted 5,000 influentials to spark conversation about Grasshopper. Their tactic, old school, FedEx, shipment. But what was kind of cool about it was you would see the FedEx package, and of course, what happens? You're going, who sent me a FedEx package? It gets attention. So they sent chocolate-covered grasshoppers, and they say a few things there, but go to this site. Go to grasshopper.com/idea, and you go there and you see a motivational video about growing a business and making a difference in growing a business. So they pointed out the fact that they spent about $68,000 on this campaign, and they went through all of the costs that kind of went through this here. Again, it's a study that can be found online, but they were measuring what mattered to them, and they ended up getting down cost per piece and so forth and so on, total cost of the program. But the deliverables and what they found through the end of July, they found that they had a lot of folks watch their video onto YouTube. They saw almost 3,000 referrals from Twitter. They saw 170 blog posts, and they could track to see where people came from. So clearly, they began to be a part of the conversation. People were talking about this campaign, and they feel as though this campaign met their objectives. The campaign was a success. This is in the case study. Is a success because it touched upon all the human senses, capitalized on people's natural curiosity, because yes, people would actually eat the grasshoppers. They would do YouTube videos of them eating chocolate-covered grasshoppers. And they said that they found a way to connect emotionally with folks utilizing both online social media and some traditional marketing methods. So you can kind of see what some folks are doing out there as to measure their success. So the point of that is this idea that you need to point out what you think is what you would like to achieve from a financial or from an emotional end, and put measurements in place to see if you can reach that. The final bit that I would like to share here is something there that is pretty dear to me whenever you talk about either offline or online word of mouth, is that evangelical employees can spread the best word of mouth. And so many times when we as marketers and whatnot devise strategies, we think more about customers than employees. Great, but don't forget about the power of an employee in this opportunity. But this also goes back to a business's company culture. And go back to this slide here of the ways to spark word of mouth. Two of these clearly link back to an experience directly with an employee. That is a great customer service or experience, and potentially explaining how a product or service works. That's usually through one-on-one contact with an employee. This is the quote that I love. From Mr. Reichheld. That'd be Frederick Reichheld from Bain & Company, written a couple books on customer loyalty, says this: I've yet to find a company that has earned high levels of customer loyalty without earning high levels of employee loyalty. It's a simple thought, but it's a powerful thought. That if you really want to have loyal customers, if you really want to have customers that are talking about your products and services, spend some time connecting with your own employees, because they can be drivers and sparkers of conversation. A company that I like to point out that does this brilliantly, Container Store. And this is not social media per se, this is just a way of doing business that can spark conversations. The Container Store, privately held out of Dallas. They sell boxes and bins and all types of things in between. They are a company that when they hire their employees, they pay them about 2 to 3 times more than they would get at a similar job. They give them 160 hours of training in the first year. When you think about that, 160 hours of paid training that they're getting paid 2 to 3 times more than they could be somewhere else. If they were a public company, shareholders would probably revolt, saying that's a wasteful spend. And of course, they get a big cut on things that they buy. Now, the results are phenomenal. They are a perennial company in the 100 best companies to work for by Fortune magazine, many times in the top 10. But the thing that I want to point out here is what's impressive is how they choose people to be employees. What they do is actually, they do it in the middle of the day, in the middle of their store. They say, go grab a chair, sit down, let's talk. They'll bring in like 20 people, and they'll sit them all down. The manager there will then talk to the folks. And at some point in this conversation, the manager says, okay, now get up and go find a product here that you love and do a show and tell. So these people here have to get up and go find a product. That's the passion test. If they come back and you can clearly tell who gets it and who doesn't get it, right? And if they can sit there and go, and someone here has a product and is struggling to showcase or to show any sort of passion for it or to let them know that they actually use it, the manager probably takes this piece of paper which has their name on it, probably does a 110 on that piece of paper. The manager goes back in the back of house, once this is all done, those folks that have 110 becomes a no. They don't get hired because they failed the passion test. Because they know that it is important to deliver great customer experiences is to find the right employee. Now, to bring this back to social media, Zappos is a darling of social media. They have been on Twitter for a long time. Their CEO is out there. He is gregarious. He is an online celebrity. And he has built customer service as a part of the culture of Zappos. And Zappos, too, has a test for their employees, especially for their employees that are a part of their customer care department. Those employees provide that direct link to customers both online as well as through the telephone. And what they end up doing, and this is something here you might have heard about, is that they have a $2,000 test. They will hire folks in, bring them in, give them 2 weeks of training, let's say. Following week 1 of training, they sit down, each person, and they say, okay, you've now been here for a week. You have a better idea as to who your coworkers will be. You have a better idea of who we are as a company. Katie, I'm going to give you $2,000 to leave right now. Katie is sitting there thinking about, okay, I see these people here. Some of them I like, some of them I might not like. I've seen a little bit about the company and know how they are and so forth. Do I want to leave now and take the $2,000 and go and never have to deal with this again? Or is this a company that I want to work for? 10% take the $2,000 and go. 90% stay. And when you take a look at it, actually, that's a pretty low-cost way to weed out cultural misfits. It is. Because they know that if they find the right fit, they're going to recoup the ROI on the training and so forth and so on easily, and they know that these people are going to make better connections with customers both online and offline to hopefully spark more word-of-mouth conversations. Tony Hsieh, their CEO, sums it up and says, we want people to be here because they're passionate about customer service and they like our culture. Simple as that. And I think that's one piece for businesses that gets lost in all of this social media puzzle, is the people component to it. Is the importance of having customers connect with those employees that get it, that are passionate, that are knowledgeable about a product or service, and they want to share with other people about it. Because if you have that sort of connection going back and forth, utilizing social media, you're not going to have to worry about the things customers say, because you know they're going to be saying more good things than bad things about what you do. And so that's kind of how I'm framing up this idea of becoming a talkable brand. You, of course, can learn much, much more about this at WOMA.org. And I got to give a little bit of a plug. If you really want to dig into a lot of social media, word-of-mouth stuff, we're having a conference next month in Vegas. A little bit easier for you guys to get there than it is for me. But go to WOMA.org. You will find out more about what it is we do, we believe in, and what you can learn more about how to spark some genuine, meaningful conversations people will be having with you and the company you work for. So folks, I thank you very much.